Okay, this is a People and Places project interview conducted by the Langston Boulevard Alliance. Today's date is 12/4/2024. We are on location at, there's so many names to it. What do we call it now? We call it the Lee Arts Center.
LAC Studios.
But it's been other things before.
Formerly known as Lee Community Center.
We'll get to that too. So, in Arlington, Virginia. My name is Bennett King, and I am a research assistant for the Langston Boulevard Alliance. And so I'll now have my narrator introduce herself, and go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us about yourself.
Sure. My name's Jean Henceroth, and I'm president of the Leeway Overlee Civic Association, which is how I got involved in the Lee Center. I live about a block and a half from here.
Oh, okay.
And I've been in Arlington 12 years. I grew up in Montgomery County, but for most of my life did not live in this area, came back 12 years ago. And the LBA is really responsible for my involvement, because when I went to the LBA meetings to finalize the plan, all of the drafts of the plan said this building would be demolished. And I thought, oh, let's talk about this.
Oh, so you hadn't even heard that before you went to the LBA meeting?
It's written in there that all future uses would include demolishing the building. So I started working on it.
Okay, we're going to get to that in just a second. So let's talk about your association with Lee Arts Center, and give us your history of when you joined the community group, or the
Civic Association.
Yeah, Civic Association.
And, so I've been president for about 2.5 years, and before that I really wasn't involved. A friend of mine that's on our executive committee asked me to participate, and I'm retired, and I said sure. They said, you get speakers and write a newsletter about 3 or 4 times a year, and I discovered that there were a lot more things to do.
Yeah.
So that was pretty exciting. And like I said, I live about a block and a half away from here, and used to vote here and use the community center when it was a center.
Do I understand it correctly? You hadn't done much, and then you were president? Like it went from 0 to 60?
Yes. Well, I had another position on the executive. We don't have a board. We have an executive committee.
Okay.
And the prior president to me, he wanted to resign, and so they asked me if I would do it. The rest of the executive committee they've all been in this organization, on that committee for years, if not decades, some of them, and so they wanted somebody new to be president, because everybody else had been president before that was on it. And if you talk to other civic associations, you will discover it's really hard to get people to participate.
So had there always been involvement with this building, with that civic association? Had this been, or did this become part of your plan as president?
Well, our civic association held its first meeting in this building when it was first opened in 1925. So the civic association has had a long affiliation with the building, and used to have all its meetings here and functions here, as did other organizations. We sort of felt like we owned it, but we really didn't. It was a lot of organizations along Langston Boulevard and in this area of Western Arlington use the building.
I see. And then, do you still meet here, or is there a different?
We have been meeting here for about the last year, which is very exciting. Cultural Affairs manages the art studios that are upstairs, and they've allowed us to come in to have our meetings.
What can you tell us, and this is whatever you can tell us, what can you tell us about the building we were in?
Well, before I get started, this probably won't be posted by Saturday, will it?
No.
Oh, okay. Because the art sale, I wanted to say something about the art sale. I can tell you a lot about the building. It was designed by a then very famous architect named Percy Crowley Adams. He designed 6 schools in Arlington in the 20s, the original Washington Lee High School, Bancroft Elementary School, and Wilson Elementary School we know of. There are 2 more, and Arlington built 6 elementary schools in the 20s, a total of 11 new schools in the 20s. So of those 11 schools, he designed 6. Mm-hmm. Arlington in the 20s consolidated 3 school districts into 1, and that's why those schools were built, was to accommodate that modernized school structure. So it was built in 25. we had our first Civic Association meeting here. In 57, the addition where we are right now was added as a cafeteria and multi-purpose room. In 71, the school was closed, and management of it was transferred to the county. And the year later, 72, the community center was opened. In the year 2000, the building was renovated. Central HVAC was put in, an elevator was put in, double paned windows, a lot of the systems, plumbing and electrical were updated at that time, and a new roof. In 2020, the community center closed, and the community centers are run by Parks and Rec in Arlington. So all of those programs were taken out of this building, but this art studios stayed and transferred to cultural affairs at that time. So the art studios are here still. They are moving probably the summer of 2025.
Okay.
I have more information if you want more.
Sure. We'll take the more information too, but I want to ask you a question about that.
Okay.
When you say when Parks and Rec moved out of here, what were some of the programs that they had that left?
I have a big, long list.
You can give us
I'll give you a highlight. Well, one, there was a co-op daycare.
Okay.
And for the community, the neighborhood here, it was primarily 55-plus programs. So served people like me, and they had everything from yoga to ballroom dancing to arts classes, music. There was a bluegrass group that would meet here that was local residents, and it was a polling place, trash bags. They still have a sign on the door, no trash bags. I mean, leaf bags, no leaf bags. Let me see.
Did that go someplace else, or did that just...
Yeah, you can't get them very many places.
Oh, I didn't mean the leaf bags, all those services, did they go someplace else?
Most of them moved to Lubber Run, but our residents that were using those 55-plus programs a lot of them did not go there.
Yeah.
Some started going to Langston Brown, which is farther east down Langston Boulevard. However, that's in a school, and that raises some challenges because there's shared space, and sometimes the people who use the community center cannot access space because it's being used by the school. So I've heard some frustrations from some of our residents that use those programs. But everything except for a gym was here. So if you look at other community centers today and what they have to offer, basically all of those programs were here except for a gymnasium.
Okay. And you can tell us the rest of the story. You want to tell us about the building if you had more.
Oh, well, well, from an architectural perspective, it's supposed to be very unique and very representative of that time period of the 20s. I have more detail, but...
Do you know how many of those, you said there were 12 buildings that were built at that time?
11 schools built in the 20s, and this firm designed 4 of them.
Do you know how many of them are left?
None that he designed.
That makes it
And
right
there's one exception, and it is no longer owned by the county. It's been owned privately for about 40 years. We think it might have been designed by the same person because it has similar design elements, but you can't really tell. And it is privately owned and is probably going to be developed as affordable housing. As part of my research was to apply for a historical designation, and I was told by several people, a county employee and also somebody who's very involved in LBA and the Planning Commission, who I can tell you who it was, you know who. Well, he said, it's not a good idea because then you can't do any restoration work. You can't, you're very limited as what can be done to the building. And our goal is to have the building renovated, and I've got exciting news about that too.
Talk about kind of the origins of the Lee Arts Center studio. And you said there was a couple of different names. So if you can walk us through, I think it was about 40 years ago as it was moved over. Walk us through how that started.
Sure. Well, the building was opened as the Robert E. Lee Elementary School on Lee Highway. So then it became the Lee Community Center or Lee Center, which is, if you talk to people throughout Arlington that are familiar with it, most of them still call it Lee Center. It became, when the Parks and Recs moved out in 2020, they changed the name to LAC Studios. And I think it might have been, I'm not sure when Langston Boulevard name was changed. It may
17 or 18.
17. So it was abbreviation for Langston Art Studios. Okay, to try to move away from that Lee name, which we would hope in the future we can find a different name.
Removed. I saw it was removed.
Yeah, that's been gone for a while. Yeah. So, like I said, in '72, when it was opened as a community center, that was 50 years ago. So, and I've heard the arts programs have been very vibrant here for 40 years, 40 plus years, so 40 to 50 years.
Okay. Do we know why they were put here? Like, what was the reason for the art centers coming in?
I think because of those beautiful windows and all that light upstairs on the second floor, those old classrooms, and those windows are magnificent. And we hope if and when the building is renovated, there will still be art activities of some sort up there. Those studios will have moved, but we hope that just because the light is magnificent, it's fantastic.
Yeah, those are beautiful rooms up there. Mm-hmm. Okay, if you were, and we'll describe it now, like if you were to describe the art center to a stranger, what would you say? Like, what would you say that is for, or what is it? Like, how would you describe it?
Well, it is challenging because we know that the programs that are here are moving, but it's been a very important part of this community for 100 years. And it's exciting that the county is saving those programs, even though they won't be in this building. They're going to be at a consolidated art center, 3700 South 4 Mile Run, which will have performing arts as well as visual arts. And that's really fantastic that those programs weren't just cut off. The county is going to continue to support them. What to me is exciting is about this building, and how I describe it is that it's a 100-year-old elementary school building that Arlington is going to save and not demolish, because Arlington is keen on new building, the county is, and we're really excited that we were able to work with the county for them to decide not to demolish it. That's really, and the arts programs are professional level artists. I mean, they are just fantastic. And they will have much more accessibility when they move because the hours here are limited. They'll have longer hours, and it's a beautiful facility, the new building is.
You were just getting to my next question. You must have pre-read these, but the next question was, like, who is this center for? Like, you said it's professional artists.
Yeah,
what are some of the services that are offered to that?
Well, some of the programs have been I don't want to use the word eliminated, but no longer offered as they get ready to transition. Right now, there's an incredible ceramic studio. They have mini kilns, including a gas-fired one outside that gets really, really hot and for a long time and can take big pieces of art. And the printmaking is fantastic. To use the facilities, artists have to qualify, and they pay a monthly fee to use the facilities.
I see. Yeah, that was one of my questions too. So it is, and then on that part of it, how do they keep that accessible to everybody? Because a fee, some people can't afford.
Well, for example, I could not join as a member because I cannot throw a pot and I know nothing about printmaking. I think when they move, I don't know if the fees will be the same. I don't know what the fees are. Okay. But there are very few other facilities that are at this level in Northern Virginia. Okay. I know there's one in Alexandria, but it's also, I think, has a fee. But I just mentioned, but there used to be a lot of educational programs. They had apprenticeships programs with county high schools. They had other educational programs with elementary schools. They would have international ceramicists come here and give lectures and workshops. So in the past, there have been a lot of educational programs here. They're still having their biannual art sale until they move. yeah. And which will, sadly, we can't use this to advertise it, but it's the work is really, really beautiful. So it was available to the community with several art programs. Yeah.
And those are no longer available, or they're available?
They've just been winding down. That's, yeah.
You, again, I think you must have pre-read this, because the next question I had was, what programs or services were available?
I read your questionnaire when you sent it to me, and look, I typed out answers.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about how it's run. It sounds like it's county owned.
It's county, it's county owned, and in 2020, when Parks and Recs moved their programs out, the arts program was transferred to Cultural Affairs. Okay. And that's who runs the building that's down on 4 Mile Run as well. Okay.
Do they run this too? They're moving?
They run the studios. Yeah. Okay. And so the studios are under the same administrative department and same management team as they will be when they move.
Okay. Do you know when they are trying to run these programs, what are their goals? Like, what is the county trying to do with these programs then?
Well, my understanding, which I know more about the building than I know about the history of the programs, but my understanding is that the county wants to make a lot of these programs accessible to a larger audience, and they centralizing arts programs, down on 4 Mile Run, instead of having different locations. They feel that my understanding is that they can better maintain a space, provide a better space, and from a distance perspective, perhaps reach different people. Now, the disadvantage of that is there will no longer be arts here along in the Langston Boulevard corridor. There was a dance studio about a mile east of here that's closed, a private dance studio, but there are no other arts facilities that are public.
Arts desert. Yeah.
An arts desert. And but previously they worked a lot with the community and with county and with local schools.
Let's talk about some of your most memorable moments here at the Art Center. Do you have any that stand out, things you really enjoyed?
Well,
good or bad?
I love coming to the sales. They're really fun. And for the past 2 years, this really doesn't have anything to do with the arts per se, but when I mentioned I discovered that Plan Langston Boulevard had great plans for this property, but all included demolishing this building, I started reaching out to a lot of people, all the county board members, or most of them, I should say, and I invited to come and tour the building or come and talk to me here. Several of them were familiar with the building, and several planning commissioners, also some other civic association presidents, one of whom referred to architects to me to do some pro bono work, to work up some different options for the future of the property. And when I was first talking to people, they'd say, this is a really great idea, but it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And I remember when I first met the county manager, Mark Schwartz, he has a roundtable once or twice a year for the Civic Association presidents. I said my name and Leeway Overlee, and he responded with, and Lee Center. and at the end of the meeting, I went up to him and he's like, I appreciate what you're doing, but it's not going to happen. And he was the one that approved not demolishing it, or really? That recommended it. Yeah, so that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
And so my most memorable moments aren't necessarily here. They're moments associated with saving the facility. But bringing different people here was really fun to hear them all say, yeah. But architects that came were real excited.
Oh, yeah, I can understand.
Real excited about it, yeah.
So we'll ask one more question about the Art Center itself, then we can talk about kind of next phases for it. A couple questions here. why would you say it's important that a space like the Lee Arts Center remains in this community? We talked a little bit about that already,
Sure,
but why is it
sure.
important it stays here?
Well, community is really important. And one challenge that we in Arlington and really throughout our country face these days is maintaining our sense of community. The internet and COVID have isolated us so much at home. So many people work at home. We don't have the same community organizations to stay in touch with our neighbors and to be a part of something other than just the four walls where we live. So Arlington has, I think it's very important to have a community center that serves this area of Western Arlington. We don't have one. And I think it's very important for Arlington to continue to have, there are a couple of other community centers in North Arlington that are in bad shape, that are north of Langston, and those areas are working really hard to save those buildings too. They don't each have to provide the same services. They don't have to all have a really state-of-the-art gym, but it's good, especially with more multifamily housing that's going to be along Langston here. Now, I believe here it's 5 stories along Langston, and we need some place for people like me that are qualified for 55 plus programs and after school programs for kids. We really need places in our community where we can gather and to maintain that. I'm just going to throw something out here, it just came to my mind. There's one element of our community that does know what's going on in the community, and those are the people with dogs that walk their dogs. Yeah. They know everything that's going on in the neighborhoods, you know, and so, but I think it's really important for us to retain and save our sense of community, and community centers can provide that.
Okay, so let's talk about, sounds like it's moving. Let's talk about the transition.
Sure.
And what's been going on with that,
Sure.
and what you see what's going on with the building in the future.
It's really exciting. This past spring, the county board, Mark Schwartz proposed and got approval for $250,000 in the county budget for the current fiscal year to do an assessment of the building. The gentleman who's in charge of issuing the request for proposal from firms to do that told me that about a week ago it's in final form. It's going out for a final approval within the county to be issued hopefully before the end of the year. And so I'm guessing in the first quarter they will have selected a firm to do the work. And I'm guessing, this is myself just because I know things take longer than sometimes anticipated. Hopefully by the end of second quarter of 2025, there will be an assessment done to see what works and what doesn't work in the building. Mm-hmm. For example, everybody knows the roof is not in great shape and HVAC is not in great shape, but a lot of other systems are in good shape and the walls are in good shape and it has good bones. So that was really exciting that was approved and is in process. The next part of that is in the CIP, the Capital Improvement Plan, that the county, that's a 10-year county plan for long-term investment or capital investment within county facilities or county infrastructure. That's reviewed every 2 years. It was reviewed earlier this year, and I think it's $15.6 million is approved in there for this facility. It's approved in fiscal year 2030, which is in about 5 years, and it's not enough, and it's too far out. I'm quoting somebody else, not myself. I didn't, but it's what you would call a placeholder. So people are aware that the county is trying to save this and will consider capital allocation at some point or require it. That the study that's going to be done will also help determine what possible future uses could be here.
So that's the assessment is part of that?
Yeah, that's that evaluation, that assessment. I mean, it's, yeah.
And then what do you, is the community involved in that assessment? Have you heard anything from the community?
No, the community is not. That's run by the county, and it's a kind of a standardized type of an assessment. Now
This
they
is
did
like a building evaluation.
building evaluation, yeah, and this was actually done, I believe in 2019 it was done, and at that time it was determined that it would cost $4.5 million to fix the building.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not that long ago, and since then, the advantage of today's evaluation will also include things like adding solar to the roof, updating for more environmental green introduction of green and environmental systems that would not have been included.
Yeah.
Were not included then, but apparently that's standard.
Yeah, the county has, they have a new set of requirements for that.
Yeah,
that they want
yeah.
to
So
use on
that's
these
exciting.
Go ahead.
And future uses of the building?
Yeah. What I think, so maybe we start with how does the community contribute to?
Oh, that's right.
what's
I'm sorry, yeah.
And then what do you see as future uses?
So the next phase of what I'm working on is to start a community engagement process, and we're going to do a survey in early January, and we're trying. Leeway Overlee Civic Association is doing that at this point. Also, part of that is to engage other people, so it's not a Leeway Overlee project, and several other civic association presidents have offered to participate. Also, the school next door, private school, is real excited about helping. So we're looking at businesses to help us, but other civic associations are going to be key to this, because I have my ideas for what I want, but it's not for me, it's for the community. So other people have some really exciting ideas. For example, having a small library room, it could be just like the little box libraries, something like that, just a book room people can drop off books. It could have, I joke around and say, it could have an extension of the Arlington Historical Society. It could have meeting rooms. One need that the community has identified to me is people that have their own businesses and work out of their homes. They don't have any place to have meetings. So they would love to be able to pay to use the room for meetings like
shared
that.
Spaces.
Shared space.
Model,
yeah, and my personal goal is that however it's configured in the future, is that a community center is part of whatever that will be. And personally, I think that those rooms upstairs with those big windows should be dedicated to arts creation. Now, and most people that see those rooms think that's a good idea, but there's a lot more to it than just what I think. So,
do you see, have you started to talk about what an adaptive reuse would be where there was affordable housing and this space?
That's a good question. So, Parks and Rec still, this is a 2.14 acre site.
Yeah.
And the park behind us, on the south side of the property, is managed by Parks and Recs, and they really want to keep all of that the goal is to keep it as a park. And these architects that did some pro bono work, they got some costing out for affordable housing, to build an affordable housing facility here. It would take, to make it cost effective, it would take up a big chunk of the park. So I think that would be a big challenge. Affordable housing is really needed in the county, and I really support that, but the question is, do we need the park space? Can the park space be redesigned to make it better for the community? Is there something to be done there? But why would Arlington want to buy more park space at the price of real estate today when this 2-acre park exists? And the goal is to save the original school building. The room we're in now might not be saved. So what those architects recommended was, replacing this, but making it on the same level as the rest of this. But